You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang, and with me, as always, my partner in crime, supporter of the Red Band Rally, Skyler Timmons.
Yeah, it's one of the hats that fits my head.
It's nice when you find one of those for us larger noggined gentlemen.
Who knows how long it will last?
Well, eventually, when you start shaving your hair down low and tight like I do, it gets a little easier because you don't have to accommodate for the hair. But yeah, it's tough. Though I once had someone guess that I wore a size 8, and that was hurtful.
Not there yet. I'm not Bruce Bochy. I'm getting there, though. I'm close.
Bruce, look, I have a big head. It's not like strong bad level big. Let's slow the roll here.
But it's also, especially when it comes to minor league hats and just hats in general, depending on who's making them, sizes are completely different depending on who's making it.
And there's also less options too. Like, there's just less options for hats to purchase for minor league teams. When I was in Texas and I went to a Fresno Rough Riders game, they had no flex fit caps, only fitted. And they did not have any fitted caps above like 7.5.
That's why I'm starting to embrace them. Like, if I have the option, I would actually rather get a snapback because just the luxury of being able to change the size on the back.
And they are getting better because New Era now has these stretch snaps where they have a little bit of give. And they're pretty nice, and they fit a lot better than a regular adjustable hat. I still prefer the flex just because it's more comfortable. But anyway, we're not here to talk about hats.
Yeah, that's for January when it's National Hat Day.
I'm ready for National Hat Day. Apparently yesterday was World Donut Day.
Yes, the local Maverick I saw in my app said, "Hey, come get some cheaper donuts."
Did you?
No.
Well, there you go then.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also not here to talk about donuts, unfortunately, unless you're talking about the donuts that the Rockies consistently put up on the scoreboard when they are at the plate. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
Ah-cha-cha.
But, Skyler, we're here to talk about the Colorado Rockies, and the Rockies, I feel like we just did an episode about roster shuffle.
Yeah, that was roster mania.
But it would appear that every week we're shuffling.
Yes. We're doing the old two-step.
The Rockies with another flurry of roster moves in order to get younger, facilitate injuries, doing a whole bunch of stuff. And we might as well start off with the one here that was a little bit of a surprise, but not that much. Jacob Stallings, catcher for the Rockies, granted his unconditional release.
Yes. Yeah, one of those surprising ones because it not surprising in the sense that Jacob Stallings has been bad offensively this season. We re-signed him to that really simple, re-signing contract. He had a career year last year. Left you pretty confident of, okay, Diaz is gone, but we can bring back Stallings on a pretty cheap deal. He can be a veteran backstop, potential starter. And unfortunately, he was relegated back down to backup role and just never got anything going offensively. He's looked awful this season, and he became expendable when you're a team that's has over 50 losses, dead last in the league. Hunter Goodman's arrival, behind the dish and at the plate. Really no need for the veteran presence of Jacob Stallings anymore. Fortunately, so it's probably part of the goodwill of the Rockies too. Let's get rid of some of these guys. They can go find opportunities elsewhere. We're going to focus on something else.
Yeah, and last week it was Nick Martini being waived, and Nick Martini has now signed on with the Oakland Athletics, an organization that he has been with before. And for Stallings, it really was like, with the emergence of Hunter Goodman, both his bat being phenomenal by Rocky standards And he has been completely solid defensively. Like, he's not going to win a Gold Glove or anything, but he is just fine. You don't really need a veteran glove first catcher, especially when that guy's hitting 143, 217, 179 through the first 50 plus games of the season. And, you know, it's a bummer because I like Jacob Stallings, and I think we both pretty much agreed during the offseason that bringing him back on that cheap deal, 1 year, $2 million with an option for 2026 was fine, because you weren't really the Rockies weren't sold on Drew Romo yet. And, you know, Braxton Fulford hadn't really emerged as an option down in AAA Albuquerque. And at the same time, though, this is, I think, the right move by the Rockies. They have now gotten rid of their two oldest players, 3 if you count Scott Alexander. The team is now getting younger. Warren Schaefer noted in his press conference yesterday that one of the main reasons why you cut Stallings is because you want to get younger. And the corresponding roster move is that the Rockies called up Braxton Fulford to be the backup catcher from AAA Albuquerque.
Yeah, and also, now I'm sure that Fulford will get plenty of time behind the dish too, where it's going to probably become more of a slightly more tandem. But I'm sure Goodman gets more time behind the dish, but you can flex him into the DH more often. Now and have hopefully a good solid bat and glove in Fulford, who's really shot up the ranks in the Rockies' eyes of how much they, I guess, value him or how they view him. That they've sung some pretty high praises on him recently in these last couple of years. Where, okay, let's bring him up and see what we've got.
Yeah, and he really, I hate to say it, but Fulford really gets this opportunity because Drew Romo got hurt during spring training. If Drew Romo doesn't break that finger in his hand, we probably don't see Braxton Fulford as the everyday catcher down for Albuquerque, where he's put up really, really good numbers.
Yeah, kind of splitting time down there too. So was it like 20 some odd games, 30 games. He's got like 6 homers, 315 average. No, somewhere around there. So yeah, he's put up the numbers down in the PCL, which again, as we always have to say, you take the offense with a grain of salt in Albuquerque still. Just because of the nature, but you can still appreciate what they're doing and get a frame of reference for it. But we got the thing too with Fulford is we've already had that brief little taste of him this season, and didn't make the strongest first impression. You could tell definitely the first game jitters type of thing. That one game where he had a bunch of throwing errors, throwing the ball around, and hey, Hunter Goodman isn't necessarily the greatest thrower in the world either. So we'll see that. But he got his first big league home run, Evan, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, 1 for 8 in his original stint. His one hit was a home run. You've got that out of the way. And for the Rockies, and we wish Jacob Stallings the best, but now I think the oldest guy on the team is Kyle Farmer, and we've seen his playing time decrease drastically as well.
Well, yeah, now he's relegated to platoon first baseman with Keston Hiura.
And occasionally is DH. And we've seen Warren Schaefer use the DH spot as more of a let's get someone off of their feet kind of role versus a designated spot. We've seen Tyler Freeman in the DH a couple times, and not exactly a prototypical DH.
Well, yeah. Well, we're seeing how Warren Schaefer is approaching, and probably is maybe in the ear of Bill Schmidt of we got to treat this as a developmental season now. This is the Rockies quadruple A minor league affiliate right now, the Colorado Rockies, and he's going to try to run it like this is a minor league team. He's going to shuffle guys in, ride the hot hand, make sure guys are getting that playing time to develop.
Yeah, especially for guys under 30.
Yeah,
if they're under 30, it's let's see what we've got in this guy. Is this guy an asset for building for the future or not? So that's why we're seeing Keston Hiura, who was kind of a hot hand down in AAA Albuquerque. He's 28 years old. He's playing first base sometimes. That's why we're seeing Mickey Moniak still get plenty of playing time, and seeing if the Rockies can tap into that, at least a little bit of that first round potential that he originally had.
Yeah. This is when you bring in your veterans who, these are your AAA veterans of, okay, they can play, they can still contribute and help out in the clubhouse and also still get their playing time. They've earned that in their careers and everything. But yeah, it's time to develop and a good opportunity for Fulford of, okay, let's see what we have in our catching core. Now, hopefully Drew Romo can, get things rolling down in Albuquerque. He's had a rough time in his brief bit of playing time since coming back from that injury. No, hopefully he can get things rolling again. And we figure out this catching situation going forward. And we'll talk about the primary catcher later in the show a little more. But no, best of luck to Stallings. He was a good guy last season, and maybe we'll miss his work with the pitching staff. I know the pitchers definitely like. It's nice to have a veteran backstop like a Jacob Stallings to pitch to help some of these young pitchers. But that's maybe where a Dustin Garneau, who's a former catcher in the bullpen, is still around to help out these guys as needed as well. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes, but definitely a big learning opportunity for the catching core.
You just don't need multiple players who are 35 years old on your roster in a season where you started 9-50.
Yeah.
And I was laughing last night because the oldest guy in the starting lineup was Tyler Estrada, and he's only 29.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I'm 29.
I'm not. I'm significantly older. But yeah, best of luck to Jacob Stallings. And then the other big roster moves, unfortunately, Chase Dollander is back from the injured list. He spent
unfortunately.
Yeah, I should have said that differently. No, thankfully, Chase Dollander is back from the 15-day IL. He spent the minimum amount of time. Had a little bit of a shaky start against Miami, but he also hadn't pitched in over 2 weeks. So
yeah, game action is always different.
Yeah, they didn't really stress him in terms of, we want you to go out there and pitch a full game. Warren Schaefer was talking about, just go out there, shake off some of the rust, throw what you can, and we'll take it from there. Ended up going 3 innings, which it was fine because the bullpen hasn't really been super taxed recently. And then the corresponding roster move for that was that Tanner Gordon, who had a couple really solid starts, is now on the 15-day IL with a left oblique strain.
Yeah, it's just shuffling people around at that point, but it made sense. It was maybe a cleaner move because to activate Dollander is probably maybe Carson Palmquist would have gotten sent back down. I don't know, but maybe just a little easier move at the moment. And some of these injuries just pop up out of nowhere. Like, did we know anything was wrong with Tanner Gordon? Oh, well, I guess he's on the injured list now. But you could tell Dollander was mostly out of precaution. And they talked about that. He probably could have made his start against the Yankees, made his next start in the rotation, but they're like, okay, no, let's take some precaution, just make sure you rest, which is fine because you don't need to tax him a bunch in this season. Don't use up all those innings type of thing. So give him a little bit of rest, help him refocus a little bit, and he'll be fine. He'll have his next start here pretty soon. On Sunday or Monday or Sunday, whatever. So, but nice to have him back, and hopefully Gordo can make a quick recovery, and Rockies will have some decisions to make in like a week and a half.
Yeah, and obliques are tricky, and I do think you can see some hints of maybe something was going on in Gordon's last start, where he labored through a pretty decent 4 2/3 innings, but wasn't really doing the same thing he had done just in his last start. And then right after that, he goes on the IL with that oblique strain. And hopefully he will be back after the minimum amount of time, but obliques are tricky and you need to be careful with them. And at the very least, Palmquist is here and healthy. Dollander is back, and the rotation can keep doing what they're doing for now, including Antonio Senzatela being anchored to an opener in Ryan Rollison in the last game. That was interesting.
Yeah, it worked. Yep. Even if Senzatela walked 4 people, but hey,
he was not sharp, but they combined for a scoreless 5 innings. So hey,
there you
go. Then the other roster moves that are coming up. Unfortunately, Ezequiel Tovar has also gone to the injured list with a left oblique strain. They noticed something in the last game he played against the New York Mets here at the beginning of June, and popped him right on there again because obliques are tricky and you want to keep an eye on it. A lot of let's just be abundantly precautious kind of injury moves since Warren Schaefer took over. And I think this is the right move anyway. Tovar was hitting pretty well since coming back from that hip contusion on the injured list. But at the same time, he's 22, 23. The Rockies aren't exactly fighting for anything right now. Shut him down, get him healthy, and it gives the opportunity then for a player that folks have been clamoring for over the last few weeks, the red hot friend of the show, Ryan Ritter, called up from AAA Albuquerque.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate with Tovar. No, I think it was that last game or that first game against the Marlins. They took him out around the 8th inning or so because he said he felt something in his body, and they evaluated him. It sucks because we've lost a lot of Tovar this month, and at this point with an oblique, maybe he's out until the All-Star break. You never know. Tyler Freeman had that oblique and missed about a month of the season. And so we've already lost a month of Tovar. We may lose another month of Tovar. Really unfortunate because that's a guy you want on the field every game. You want to watch him play. You want to watch his very pale bobblehead night and him to be there. So hopefully he can make a speedy recovery. But how exciting for Ryan Ritter, who this is an opportunity. And the Rockies talked about this in that Thomas Harding newsletter where the Rockies weren't going to call him up until there was an opportunity for him to play regularly. And
which is
preferably
already
up the middle of the infield. He's not a first baseman, people.
Yeah, which is already a change in philosophy from when Bud Black was the manager. Where how many times did we see a player get called up and they just sit on the bench because they've got to learn, they've got to fly on airplanes and whatnot.
Yeah. For Bud Black, it was a checklist of, okay, you get added to the 40-man roster. Check. All right, you get your major league debut and a pinch hit appearance. Check. He had this checklist of things that players needed to do before they could be big leaguer. Learn how to fly a plane with Bam Bam Mullins. All that kind of stuff. Where's Warren Schaefer, that minor league mentality? Hey, top prospect, hot hand, getting called up. Why let that go to waste? Let him keep playing. And that's what Ritter needs because Evan, homie had a phenomenal month of May with the Albuquerque Isotopes.
One of the best months of May we've seen by a prospect from the Rockies. In 24 games in May, he hit 381, 445, 918, 12 home runs, 31 ribbies. He had a 17-game hitting streak. He was Pacific Coast League Player of the Week in back-to-back weeks, Pacific Coast League Player of the Month, Rockies Organizational Player of the Month. He was red hot. And people were clamoring to see him. And I was we saw people going, oh, well, you got to option totally and then have Ritter play first base. Ritter's not a first baseman.
Yeah, Troy.
And that would be such a waste of his incredible defensive talent to anchor him to first base.
Yeah, a position that he's never played. It's not his position. He's a middle infielder. That's what you drafted him to be, not a first baseman. People treat first base with more respect. You can't just throw anybody there and expect them to be good.
Yeah, this is not rec league softball.
Yeah, you don't put just a player there to have them. You need to have a good first baseman.
And we've seen how good, even with his offensive struggles, Tolia at first base is a good first baseman. But for Ryan Ritter to come up, he's immediately in the starting lineup. He's going to get regular playing time at shortstop. And then ideally, when Ezequiel Tovar comes back, you can put him at second or third or shortstop to spell Tovar when he comes back. But for the 24-year-old Ritter to be here and immediately getting regular playing time is the right decision. And I would not have called him up earlier than this. And it's a bummer that it has to come with Tovar being hurt, but the boon is that now he will play. Yeah.
The hope is that in this time frame of however long Tovar is out, Ritter can establish himself, show a lot of success, would not really face that learning curve, but be solid and contributor and show those signs that he was doing in Albuquerque, where then it makes a Orlando Arcia and a Tyro Estrada expendable. Now that's the whole thing. Arcia and Tyro Estrada for now, they're that safety net of, okay, Ritter's really struggling. He's really having a hard time against Major League pitching. Let's send him down so we can keep working on some other things maybe. We can keep rolling with these guys as we need them to. Now, that's the role of veterans on this roster. I know people will hate that we have Arcia, that we still have Estrada, and all these things, and Farmer as well. Ritter's job right now is to make himself indisposable. Meanwhile, we do have those safety nets, and that's the role of those types of veterans on a team like this, where you don't need to throw all your prospects to the wolves at the major league level and sink or float. You can protect your prospects in a sense.
Yeah, like Amador.
That's what those guys do.
Sending Amador back down was the right move.
Yeah, and Arcia, okay. Major league veteran, whatever. We'll take what we can. He's probably not going to be very good. Whatever. Who cares at this point?
Yeah, and he's been fine. And we'll wrap things up here with Ritter just pointing out his first big league hit, which he got in his MLB debut. The first time a Rockies debut had their first hit be a triple, and it was a great triple.
In their first major league game, no doubt.
So huge congratulations to Ryan Ritter for making that big league debut. Like we said, friend of the show. We had the chance to talk to him at the beginning of the season. It was an absolute delight. And Skyler, that's now 4 debuts from Rooftop Mingle alumni.
It's true. We had Drew Romo, who interviewed, and then not long after that debuted last season. Had Ryan Rollison near the end of last season, and now he's debuted this year. And then that's Zach Agnos, that we had in spring training that we talked to. Now Ryan Ritter.
So what we're saying is, you come on the show, you might make your debut.
Hey, we've sapped maybe some of that intentional talk. They used to have the IT talk magic. A guy would come on for an interview and then he'd have a really good game that night. I hope we're starting to have that effect on guys having good seasons too.
The Rooftop Mingle magic.
There we go.
Who's next? Kyle Karros, maybe?
Ooh, Gabby Hughes.
Ooh, Gabriel Hughes. I do think he debuts this season.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we're going to take a quick break here and keep discussing the Rockies after, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. And Skyler, something weird happened last week. The Rockies won 3 games in a row.
What?
Against the same team on the road.
Oh my! Oh, hooray!
The Rockies, with their first series win of 2025, and their first series win since September of 2024, breaking a MLB record 22 straight series losses in the process. Their first sweep of the Miami Marlins on the road in over a decade.
Yeah.
The first sweep of a road team by the Rockies since May of 2024. In 3 games, the Colorado Rockies swept the Miami Marlins.
57 consecutive series without a sweep.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the Marlins. No, this isn't necessarily the Battle of the Titans at this point in the season of 2 franchises that have pretty much in their histories. Overall, not very great. Marlins did have a couple of those World Series titles somehow. Some black magic voodoo. But probably nobody was expecting much out of this series.
Yeah.
These are 2 teams that are not good, not in a good spot. One is obviously maybe a little further ahead in their rebuild just because they've shipped off everybody. Now, very similar franchises with just terrible ownership, dysfunction. I think the Marlins just have had some better luck with some players that they've acquired, and they've gone full in on their rebuilds and stuff. But
yeah, a very young team in the Miami Marlins. And yeah, let's be honest here. This is not earth-shattering. Like it's great for Rockies fans, and it was some fun baseball. But this was the worst team in baseball, sweeping the 3rd worst team in baseball.
And I'd asked that question of, is the pitching really that good in this series, or are both offenses just so terrible? No, so it's hard to really get a a firm grasp on how to assess that series, because both teams are awful. Like Sandy Alcantara, he's been awful this season. He looked like his old self against the Rockies, and it makes you think, was he really that good, or we just that terrible still?
Yeah, Cal Quantrill, who's not been good this season,
Yeah.
former Rocky, pitched a very strong outing against the Rockies.
Yeah, and so it's hard to just assess and analyze this series because there's so many of those variables and questions lurking at the back of your mind, where it's like, should I be excited and like confident about this, or should I just take this series sweep with a grain of salt?
I think you take it with a grain of salt and be like, that was fun. Yay. It was a nice, good injection of energy, injection of life into the Rockies clubhouse and into the fan base that really needed just something to hang their hat on this season. And for the Rockies, I think it's further demonstration of, and it's something that Warren Schaefer has talked about, something that guys in the clubhouse have talked about, is incrementally the team is getting better. They are still overall a bad team, but you can point at individual things and go, okay, there's some improvement. There's some interesting things to look at here.
Yeah, no, I think Warren Schaefer kept talking about that a lot of the times, is the team is putting themselves in positions to win games. Most of the time they're not doing that, but in that Miami series, they did, and that's thanks to Hunter Goodman popped off at the plate. There was some good timely hitting, some incredible pitching, some strong performances by starting rotations in the bullpen. So there's a lot that you could look at and say, okay, that was good. But no, you can look at that road trip itself from Chicago to New York to Miami. It was kind of the same thing in all those series. So you can expand it out maybe from that series, Evan, and look at that road trip where, yeah, they won those 3 games on the road trip, but they played some competitive games. Every game was at least within 2 runs, aside from the loss against the Mets on May 31st. They lost 8-2. Everything else, the score was within 2 runs or less.
Yeah, and that's definitely the thing to look at, is we are not getting blown out of every game like we were earlier in the season, where every game just felt like a complete exercise in futility. There's no chance we're going to win this. We're giving up tons of runs while at the same time not scoring anything, and we're still not really scoring anything. The Rockies game against the Mets last night was an exercise in frustration in terms of not scoring runs when you had the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and that's Friday's game. We're recording this on Saturday, so just for the space-time continuum.
But the pitching overall, not bad. You got, 5-6 innings out of the Ryan Rolison, Antonio Senzatela tandem without giving up any runs. And then both Tyler Kinley and Zach Agnos give up 2 runs. Zach Agnos, unfortunately, that's his probably quote unquote worst appearance of the season so far, after going 16 appearances with a 1.5 ERA. Like, you're unfortunately due a stinker at some point, and it wasn't even really that bad. You had a very close play with Pete Alonso sliding in at home, and off after that Francisco Lindor double. But then again, it was only a 2-run deficit, and that's the problem, is the Rockies just can't score those runs. The Friday night game, you had Ryan Ritter lead off the inning with a triple and not score. You had the bases loaded with nobody out later in the game and did not score any runs. When Ryan McMahon came up and hit into a fabulously unlucky double play, line drive to the third baseman, who then tags out Jordan Beck at third.
Yeah.
But that was after Jordan Beck could have scored on a previous play and got called back to third base.
Yeah. So the offense, you can see things in the offense of, okay, they're giving themselves opportunities. It's still the matter of they can't capitalize on opportunities. That they will throw in some clutch hits in there. Mickey Moniak hits a home run. He hits a single that ties the game up at 2. A lot of those instances, it's not able to keep the pedal to the metal in those keep the momentum flowing. They're still struggling with that.
Yeah.
And luckily your offense can take some solace where the pitching is doing their thing. They are pitching their guts out. On that road trip, Evan, I was looking at this. A 3.38 ERA during that 9-game road trip. That's
That'll
pretty
play.
good. 60 strikeouts, 23 walks. No, they gave up just 34 runs on 67 hits. It's not bad. No, that's pitching performance that could win you ball games, plenty of games. They went 3-6. You could have at least been played 500 on that road trip.
Yeah, they had the opportunity to do so, and they're taking better at bats. Like the Rockies hitting last night, especially against Kodai Senga, a very good pitcher. Lots of full counts, lots of patient, professional at bats, and just not getting the results out of it. So it's progress, and progress is going to be slow. This is a long. There's still like 100 games left to play, and this is a learn and develop season the rest of the way, and you're looking for that incremental progress. We've talked about it before. There's no quick fix. There's no band-aid to rip off now. It's just making it to the finish line and learning and developing as much as you can.
Yeah, and they have to crack the code of how can we start hitting, because that's the biggest thing. Pitching, we don't really have to worry about. There's still some things that you always worry about, but we don't have to put as much pressure on the pitching of, well, it's because if the pitching was better, we'd be doing. The pitching's doing its job. They're keeping games close. It's okay if they give up 3 runs. Like, that's okay. Over the course of a game, but it's that offense needs to pick things up, and we saw hints of it again throughout that road trip and in that series with Miami, where some back and forth affairs, some big clutch hits. Hunter Goodman hitting 2 home runs. Ryan McMahon coming through with a big hit. It's incremental, step by step. They're still walking when they need to start running.
Yeah.
When it comes to the offense.
And you just need to see them start taking the pressure off of the pitching staff, so that the pitching staff doesn't feel like they need to be perfect. Because like we said, the pitching has been totally fine. The bullpen ERA has been lowered to 4.02.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time it was that low.
The 6 runs in that first game against Miami, that was the most runs they had scored in a game since that 14-12 win on the road against Arizona.
Yeah, and the Rockies have only scored double-digit runs just a couple of times this year.
Yeah.
It's tough because we want to see more from the team right now, because of course we do. But at the same time, you've got to recognize that that's probably not happening anytime soon, outside of the occasional explosion where the Rockies scored 11 runs against the Nationals, and they scored 12 against the Athletics, and they scored 12 against the Diamondbacks that one time, or 14, pardon me, against the Diamondbacks. And those are basically the 3 times the Rockies have scored double-digit runs this season.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the rest of the way, it's more like 3, 4, 3, 1, 2, 2, that kind of thing. They're all very low scoring.
Yeah, the Rockies are hitting under 200 on the road. They're at $195. Next closest team is the Texas Rangers at 214. Their OPS is 567 on the road, which, obviously, is, again, lowest in baseball. Next closest is the Pittsburgh Pirates at 617. So they're bottom there. Down enough. They've got 27 home runs on the road, which is more than a couple of teams. So they're not. We understand. Okay, road numbers awful. At home, still not that great either. They're not the worst in the league, but it's Coors Field isn't they're in the bottom 10, Evan, in batting average. On base percentage, they're down there. Just their offensive numbers are not up to snuff at Coors Field either. It's not the hitting haven. So when you see a series like, we swept the Marlins, okay, the offense still needs some things to do, But hey, at least they'll come carry that momentum to Coors Field, where then that offense will tick up. Where maybe it'll tick up a little bit in terms of hits. The runs still aren't coming.
Yeah, the Rockies only have 11 more hits at home than they do on the road, and they actually have one fewer home run.
Woo!
Coors Field, the magical hitter's paradise.
I'm telling you, it's just been one big elaborate scheme by Dick Monfort to dispel the Coors Field myths.
Oh, you think it's easy to hit at Coors Field? Well, watch us fail to do it.
It's not so much the Coors Field effect. It's just that this team has had bad hitters in their history.
Bad hitters, bad coaching, bad development.
So, I don't know. It's nice to see a sweep. You can see the inklings of what could make this team much better. They're just not getting there yet.
Yeah, let's not. You can't look at the sweep as something that portends to something greater this season. Like, no matter what, this season is still effectively over.
Mm-hmm.
There is no contending. The Rockies are still on pace for over 100 losses.
Yeah. No, this team is still affected by altitude.
Wahey.
Hey-oo. But yeah, you see the inkling, just the change in that offense, and I like how this conversation just transformed from that sweep into this larger thing. But you're just seeing maybe change in hitting philosophy, just the slightly little bit, Evan, where we talked about this last night during Purple Row playback stream and other stuff of just how the Rockies are approaching being a little bit more aggressive, in their approach of just how they play the game in general, not just at the plate, but when they're on the base paths, when the ball is in play, which can help with trying to turn things around and maybe scoring some more runs and fixing this stuff.
Yeah, and the strikeouts still a problem, but have gotten better, where the Rockies were on pace to shatter the single season strikeout record. And they are more likely on pace to not even break the record, which is nice. That's an improvement.
During that road
trip,
still
strike out too much.
Yeah, it's way too much. But during that road trip, only 2 games where they struck out double digits.
Hey, that's progress.
They came close with 9 strikeouts and 8 strikeouts in quite a few of them. But hey, that's still less than double digits.
Yeah, and what you want to see now is them start to put things more together. Like we're seeing more longer professional at bats, taking more pitches. The Rockies started the season taking some of the fewest pitches per at bat of any team in baseball. And we're starting to see that sort of normalize now. Lots of work, trying to work the count, stuff like that. And now you want to hope that maybe some more walks are coming and, patiently aggressive instead of just flailing wildly of attacking your specific pitch that you are wanting to put the wood on.
Yeah. We still see those bad habits, but it's like, put the ball in play. And if the defense makes an excellent play, okay, like that's nothing against you. It's just bad luck, which saw with Tyro Estrada. That happened to him in New York against the Mets. Line drive, and Francisco Lindor leaps up and grabs it.
Yeah, Tyler Freeman got robbed a couple times.
I need to go on the injured list now, Evan. I just smacked my elbow with my left oblique strain. So you can't control the unlucky things, but what you can control is putting the bat to the ball and putting in play and putting some hustle into things. Because as Stan Sanchez said, hustle makes things happen. And he was the hitting coach for Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, and we're seeing that more. We're seeing more stolen base attempts. We're seeing guys try and leg out the extra bases. And we talked about it a little bit during our playback stream yesterday of the difference in philosophy in terms of aggression, where with Bud Black, you really felt like he didn't have faith in the offense. And so he never sent the runner. He never had them be extra aggressive on the base paths because you don't want to give up an out on the rare occasion that you have somebody on base.
It's one of those things where I've always just felt like it's hard for former pitchers to be big league managers. There's just something always to me that's felt like it's not the best fit majority of the time. Now, and there's been examples of some good, managers that were former pitchers, Tommy Lasorda, guys like that. But it just feels like, how often do you hear about this great pitcher that was a manager? The pitchers usually become your pitching coach because that's what they know. And they can bring their pitching philosophy to that. Sometimes a pitching manager brings those pitching philosophies to the manager's role, and he just doesn't know how to manage the offense, manage a lineup necessarily. I know it's a lot of my own opinion with it and whatnot, and it's hard to quantify that, but it just feels like that sometimes. So then when you get a former position player like Warren Schaefer, you see that difference of, well, this is how I like to play the game. This is how I'm going to manage the team because this is how I like to play it.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, that infusion of minor league energy into the managerial style of your next man up, of let's be aggressive, of let's get you playing time, riding the hot hand. I like it. I like what I've seen from Warren Schaefer so far. And still the media, of course, is making plenty of jokes at the expense of the Rockies. Warren Schaefer's managerial record is, still not great because the Rockies are still a bad team. But there is stuff to like. The Rockies are going to continue being bad this season, but we've said it a couple times already. The games are watchable now. They were not watchable early in the season. It felt like torture.
Here's a fun little thing I just wanted to look up, Evan. The Rockies hitting on the road, their batting average, what did I say, it was like a $197, $195. Former manager Bud Black, his batting /line, his career batting average, which is mostly him hitting with the San Francisco Giants from 1991 to 94. So his age 34 to age 37. Bud Black has a career 145 batting average. So the Rockies as a whole on the road in 2025, less than 50 points, around 50 points higher than Bud Black's career as a pitcher.
Yeesh. That's not great.
He had 49 strikeouts and 4 walks.
Less than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, 12 RBIs, 4 doubles, 26 hits.
But never hit a home run?
Nope.
All right, well.
And so he taught his Rockies teams to do that too. To never hit a home
run. If I
run.
couldn't hit a home run, neither can you. Hey, Erman's got him beat, though. Erman Marquez has 2 career home runs.
Kyle Freeland's got him beat.
Do you remember when John Gray hit that big home run?
Yes.
Baseball. I don't miss pitchers hitting, but I do miss the occasional pitcher home run.
Hey, at this point, they're as rare as the Rockies hitting home runs, it seems like.
Ouch. Well, on that note, we're going to take one more quick break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude, our third and final segment with Evan and Skyler. And Skyler, All-Star ballots are now open for voting for your MLB All-Star teams here in 2025. The All-Star game in Atlanta, Georgia. And the Colorado Rockies put out on their social media a screenshot of every spot in the ballot being filled with a Rockies player. Michael Toglia, optioned. Tyro Estrada, just got back from the injured
like
list.
3 weeks.
Ryan McMahon has not played well. Ezequiel Tovar, injured. Jordan Beck, playing well. Brenton Doyle, not playing well. Mickey Moniak, nah. Hunter Goodman, playing well. Kyle Farmer, not playing that great. And they captioned it with, you all have a chance to do something really special that's never been done before. And I love my Rockies. I love them very dearly. But I cannot imagine a world where I would vote for all Rockies on my ballot.
Read the room, homie. Let's be realistic here. Even for the meme, no.
I mean, at least they didn't put Chris Bryant on the ballot this year like they did last year.
Well, I was just looking at this ballot, Evan. Down in designated hitter. For the San Francisco Giants, they've got Error Encarnacion, 0 batting average, 0 home runs, 0 RBIs, 0 OPS. Why is he on the All-Star ballot?
I don't know. That's the thing, is I've never understood the way that they do the All-Star ballots, where they very clearly prepare these way too early in the season.
Yeah, Encarnacion has 11 at-bats in 4 games this season.
Yeah. I don't think he's on the big league roster
he was just
right now.
activated on the 2nd.
Versus, like, the catcher for the Padres is Elias Diaz. He has not been the starting catcher for the Padres.
Well, he mostly has been.
Has he?
Yeah.
Early in the season, he wasn't really starting. He was mostly the backup catcher.
Between him and Martin Maldonado.
Not really either good options there. Or, yeah, like we said, they've got Thairo Estrada listed as the second baseman for the Rockies, where he's literally just gotten back from the injured list. Who's voting for Thairo Estrada to be an All-Star?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other conversation we can have with the voting process, where you need to expand your stock options for each position. Okay, just, I don't know, put some notable candidates, not just one guy for every team, but actually it's fan voting, so it doesn't really matter. The big markets are going to decide this anyway.
Yeah. Or people being weird. Like, let's not forget that one season where the American League team was essentially all Kansas City Royals.
Hey, those Royals deserved it.
Did they?
Yeah, sure.
But that brings us to the question of who is going to be the All-Star representative for your Colorado Rockies in 2025. The Rockies are guaranteed one All-Star. That is very likely all they will get. And really, the only one that you could vote for and go, yeah, that makes sense, is Hunter Goodman.
That, or you, the fan, for putting up with this crap this season. But yeah, you look at that list, and yeah, there's some notable players that you'd like, can hopefully be an All-Star at some point in the future. But realistically, this season, and we know he's going to get overlooked in the voting process, he would probably be the All-Star rep. No, him or Jake Bird. We'll touch on Birdo in a second. But legitimately, and I wrote about this for Fans First, Sports FFSN.com, since they changed it from Fans First, sports.com. I wrote about this where Hunter Goodman, he deserves more than just the courtesy rep selection, where legitimately he deserves more attention and votes in the catching category, where it's probably going to go to Will Smith. Deservedly so. He's a good catcher. He's got some good offensive numbers. He's a really good receiver, and he plays for the Dodgers. So of course he's probably going to get a majority of that vote. Carson Kelly probably gets some notable things. JT Realmuto and William Contreras. The name brand players are going to get their votes.
Yeah.
But legitimately, if you look at the numbers, and which, of course, every fan does, Evan, they definitely go in and look at the numbers. Hunter Goodman is probably the best offensive catcher in the National League. I'm not going to say in the league because that belongs to the big dumper. But in the National League, Hunter Goodman deserves his flowers.
Yeah, he leads catchers in hits. He's got double-digit home runs, 36 RBI. He's hitting 281, 328, 491, OPS plus of 118. He's been really good, and it's such a shame that he gets overlooked. I mean, and that's Rockies baseball for you, unfortunately, is that they're going to get overlooked, but he's got a weighted runs created plus of 115. He's one of the team leaders in wins above replacement, both in Fangraphs WAR and Baseball Reference WAR. He's a difference maker on this team, and he's legitimately been really good. And is he the best catcher in Major League Baseball? No. And like you said, that's Cal Raleigh, who's having a truly incredible season. right now. But he is one of the best catchers in the league right now. And it's not because of his defense. His defense is fine, but who's voting for their all-star catcher based on defense anyway?
Yeah, unless his name's Yadier Molina. But that's the thing is you can look, people looked at WAR and whatnot. Yeah, Hunter Goodman's WAR is not going to be that good because for all intents and purposes, he's not that good defensively. He's pretty average. That's just what he is. But it's the offensive part of it, which in this day and age, that's what a catcher is. The implementation of the universal DH has helped catchers, I think, be more offensive. More offensive. But they're able to contribute more offensively because they have those opportunities to get off the feet and just focus on hitting at times.
Yeah. And even though his wins above replacement is lower than it could be because of that, he's still the only Rockies player that is worth 1 win above replacement per Fangraphs and one of just 3 that's worth 1 per Baseball Reference.
Mm-hmm.
Up there with Ryan McMahon, who is boosted by his excellent glove work, and Jake Bird, who we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah. So it just pains me when I look at the ballot because in the National League, it's pretty slim pickings, my friend. There's good catchers, the name brand catchers, but you can look at the numbers overall and you're like, if I had to pick one of these guys to be in my lineup right now, it's between Hunter Goodman, Will Smith, Carson Kelly, like one of those 3. You'd probably go with Will Smith because of the defensive part, but like you mentioned, who's voting based on that? Like those aren't the numbers that they show here. They're showing his offensive numbers, which everybody looks at, and you'll take what you can with the defense. No, defense doesn't make you an all-star; it's your bat.
Yeah, the other guy who's being overlooked, I think, is 32-year-old catcher with the Cincinnati Reds, Jose Trevino.
Yeah,
also having a really good season, and it's these are 2 smaller market teams that don't get the national media attention with 2 excellent catchers this year who aren't going to get the spotlight they deserve because one, there's only so many roster spots for a catcher on an all-star ballot, but like you said, they're going to get overlooked by those name brand catchers, and that's a shame because most of the catchers on the all-star ballot have not been having very good seasons outside of the guys you already mentioned, Real Muto, Will Smith. Also, I think being overlooked is Gabby Moreno from the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, and but like I said, they're good seasons. Are they all-star seasons? Probably not. Like legitimately, it's between Will Smith and Hunter Goodman in my eyes. Of those are your top 2 National League catchers that should be getting votes. Like I don't care if Will Smith probably wins it. I've accepted that.
Yeah,
but Hunter Goodman just deserves more votes and recognition. That's what we've had these last several seasons. Well, the Rockies have been terrible, deservedly so, that they don't get much recognition. And I know people will make the joke, "Oh, it's the Rockies. They don't deserve. There's no all-stars on that team. They all suck." Overall, as a unit, they do. But Hunter Goodman is not a reason for why the Rockies suck this year.
Yeah, and you want to know a wild stat about Hunter Goodman? So the Rockies have played 61 games. Sorry, 63, pardon me. How many of those games has Hunter Goodman appeared in?
Most all of them.
60.
There you go.
Hunter Goodman is playing more than most of these other catchers.
And that's because of the DH spot, where, okay, we can keep his bat in the lineup and give him rest because catching is a grueling thing. He's not the best catcher in the world. So we're not losing much by not having him behind the plate on some days. And that's why we mentioned with Braxton Fulford up, that's going to give both of them good opportunities to play quite a bit, keep their bats in the lineup and whatnot. But the DH has saved the catching position in a sense where it's not just an empty out anymore. You can have a good bat. You can throw him behind the dish as needed, but you can keep him in the lineup as a DH.
Yeah. Maybe it's name brand recognition. Cal Raleigh's got one of the best nicknames in baseball. You call him the Big Dumper. Maybe Hunter Goodman just needs a really good nickname.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Blake Street Banner guys, but your mom's favorite player that's not going to cut it.
My 2 favorites that I saw these both on Reddit. where because of his facial hair, where it doesn't grow anything up here, it's just the Amish style beard.
Brother Goodman.
I saw Brother Goodman is a good one. I also saw Big Amish, and I think my favorite is the Sluggin' Mennonite.
Let's call him the Butter Churner.
Butter Churner is good. Just one of those old fashioned nicknames like the Millville Meteor.
Yeah. Well, the Amish greenhouse that's not too far from my house, it's called the Country Greenhouse. They spell country Kuntry. So
that's unfortunate.
We call him Big Country.
That could work.
But spell it that way.
Don't spell it that way. Where's Goody from? He's from Memphis. He's from went to the University of Memphis in Arlington, Tennessee. You call it Big Country.
There you go.
Just don't spell it like that.
Big Mike. That's how those Amish spell it.
Hunter Big Mike Goodman.
Yeah, we'll call him Big Mike Goodman.
So now you've got 3 Rockies players that have Mike in their nickname, 2 of which are not named Mike.
Yeah. Or can we call him Saul? Saul Goodman?
Nah.
Better call Saul.
You don't want nicknames tied too much to pop culture. Sometimes you just get a good nickname, like Big Dumper. Big Cat.
We've got to find a good one for Goodman.
There's a player with in the Rockies farm system right now named Everett Catlett, and we need a cat nickname for him because we've already had Big Cat, we've already had Little Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Cat, house cat, barn cat. If he was a reliever, you could call him the barn cat, but because he's coming out of the arm barn.
I don't know. In general, people just are not good with coming up with baseball nicknames these days.
Yeah, that's true. So many of them are just part of the player's name with a Y at the end.
He's a giant guy. Let's call him Big So-and-so. Why?
Halvey, Goody, Toey.
It's true.
Birdie.
Or something that's just so uncomfortable to say that you would never call them that to their face.
Like Mackenzie Blackwood of the Avs.
Yeah.
But speaking of Rockies All-Star players, the one that you don't get a vote for, and another guy making a very, very strong case to be an All-Star this year, and unfortunately also boosting his trade value more and more each day, is Rockies reliever Jake Bird, who has been lights out this season. He has been really, really good. He's the team's leader in wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. He is pitching his guts out every day. 26 appearances, 35 and 1/3 innings. His ERA is 1.53, and he had a heck of an outing on Friday night where he came in with 2 runners on since he walked 2 on, and Bird, as he got to grips with his command, walked a third. So bases loaded, no outs, 3 straight strikeouts. And he made a show of it walking off the mound. And he's a guy I've really come to love out of the Rockies bullpen for his, even though he's had his struggles, he's had his issues being misused by the organization. And he has settled in so nicely this year where I think if it's not Hunter Goodman of the Rockies All-Star spots, you've got to give it to Jake Bird.
Yeah, and you hope other players and coaches and whatnot can recognize both of these guys as part of the novelty, singular rep. Where, again, like you said, just because he's on the Rockies doesn't mean he can't be an All-Star. Like, yeah, the team sucks, but Jake Bird isn't a reason for that. He has done his job this season, and in the National League, you're going to get overlooked by a lot of the closers, good relievers, but don't overlook Jake Bird. Like, don't just go with the safe answer of, Ryan McMahon's the All-Star. There were legitimate times last season where there could have been a couple guys the year before where it was like, Jake Bird and Justin Lawrence could have both been All-Stars that season, but they didn't give it to him. but you hope maybe the rest of the league can take notice of, okay, yeah, this guy deserves it because he's been lights out with the amount of work he's been asked to do. Oh, he has the third most in all of baseball, most in the National League in terms of innings pitched. ERA, like you mentioned, it's way down there. Give him his flowers. The Birdman has earned it.
Yeah. And honestly, in an ideal world, I think both of these guys could and maybe should be all-stars if they keep up this performance by the time those ballots are named.
Yeah. Fifth lowest ERA by a reliever in the National League, Evan. Fifth lowest.
And that's
with
nothing
the most
to sneeze
innings.
at. He's pitching his heart out. He's one of just two Rockies pitchers with an ERA below 2. It's him and Zach Agnos. Actually, Zach Agnos might have hopped up after the night he had last night. Zach Agnos hopped up to 237. But yeah, Jake Bird, 149 in 27 appearances, 36.1 innings. So this is the updated stats after last night. 45 strikeouts to 15 walks, a whip just barely above 1, batting average against 205. You know the only pitcher who's got an ERA below Jake Bird's on the Rockies? Alan Trejo.
Oh. Good old Trejo. Yeah, and like looking at Fangraphs, he's leads all relievers in the National League in strikeouts. So he's up there. He's near the top in the leaderboards for most every category, along with the counting stats in the league. In how good is that? And then his FIP, which you always have to take FIP into account because that takes out the defensive equation. He still has a look here, a 2.36 FIP, which that's still good for 13th in the National League. Not too shabby.
Not at all.
Getting it done with all the innings that he's throwing in the situations he's calling. Yeah, his command. He still walks too many people. Like that's just who Jake Bird is. He's going to be a little wild. That's what makes the other part of it have to be so much better. If he can get strikeouts, he can get outs.
Yeah,
where the walks won't matter.
When he locks it in, he is excellent. And that's what makes it so frustrating is that both Bird and Goodman are, in my opinion, all-stars not just by Rockies standards, but by league standards. They are legitimately two of the better players in the league right now in their respective positions. And they're going to get overlooked because they play for the Colorado Rockies, the worst team in baseball.
Yeah. Now, and it's hard when it comes to the relievers and especially like the pitching staff and stuff, because you have to find the right mix of, okay, we're going to take probably a lot of closers because those are the name brand guys. Those are the big type guys where, okay, well, if you want a guy that just kind of live in obscurity, okay, yeah, we'll select Jake Bird and he'll just be there at the All-Star game in name. I think it comes down to, because usually it's between the league and like the coaching staff. So like Dave Roberts has a lot of say in the pitching side of things too, I think. It's usually how it works.
Yeah.
So who knows? Like, will he call up Bud Black and like, hey, buddy, like, who should I get for the pitching staff? I don't know. Yeah, but hopefully Jake Bird just gets some recognition. It'd be nice if the wider media, like Rockies, focus in on some guys and highlighting them and not just do the vote for everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Dial it in. Vote for Goodman. Spread the name Jake Bird around. You can't vote for him, but you can spread the word. The bird is the word.
Oh.
But yeah, hopefully the two of them will continue to play extremely well for the rest of the first half of this season. And who knows, maybe we can get lucky. And if only one of them is named to the All-Star team to start, then maybe someone else can be an injury replacement or something like that.
Yeah.
But and that's not as fun a way to get to go to the All-Star game. but you're still an All-Star. Get your game on.
Yeah.
Go play.
Yeah. It's more meaningful if it happens one way, but it's still significant the other way.
Yeah, I will still proudly, hopefully the jerseys aren't as bad as they were last year this year. Oof.
That's okay. They'll wear their regular uniforms during the game anyway, so.
Yeah, but I still love the Derby and BP jerseys. And they used to be consistently very good, but kind of hit or miss over the last
Still telling
5-10 years.
They should have to design their All-Star game jerseys to look like what they should have been in Colorado.
Yeah, flip them around, because we had to wear the ones that were very obviously the ones the Atlanta Braves were going to wear.
Mm-hmm.
But, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep sticking with you every step of the way here on Affected by Altitude. Skyler, where can the folks find you at?
Find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmons or on Blue Sky at stimmons13.bsg.social, and writing Wednesday Rock Pals for purplerow.com, and writing game recaps, maybe the occasional extra thing over at fansfirstsportsnetwork.com, FFSN.com.
And you can find me over on Blue Sky and other social media sites at evanlang27.bsky.social. You can also find me on Purple Row writing the Monday Rock Piles and the weekly Pebble reports every Tuesday in addition to our regular game coverage. Check out all the stuff that went up on the site over the last week, because I think we truly had some excellent stuff up on Purple Row over the last week or so. Definitely worth taking a look at. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop and Affected by Altitude on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If it has podcasts, we're on it. You can also watch the video version on youtube.com, and you can find all us on all these social medias at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. But that's going to do it here for us on another episode of Affected by Altitude. We appreciate you watching us. Remember, watching, listening, however you intake our podcast. Something to keep an eye out for the Purple Row stuff is our streams on playback. We will advertise those on Purple Row and our individual social medias. Those have been a lot of fun, so check us out there. Skyler, you got anything else for us today?
Real quick, I think somebody needs a phone call.
Hello?
What? Chris, it's Bill Schmidt here. How you feeling? How's the back?
It hurts.
Oh, what have you been up to? We haven't really seen you around much.
Not much. I can't play baseball activities. I haven't even been on the field after my procedure.
Do you think we're ever going to see you again?
I don't know. All you can do is keep watching the skies for signs of my arrival.
What does that even mean?
You'll see.
No, Chris, no!
Oh, ominous.
No, goodness. Anyways, farewell! This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.